Okay, so I don't know whether a lot of people wonder why it's so important to me that I do what I do, that I put my work out there, because I help people get off medications that they don't need to be on because they've been led to believe that there's something wrong with them when they're not. They're not different, they're special, and they need to understand that, and there's a reason why they're special, because they have things to contribute to the world that will make such a massive difference to the way that we evolve as a species, that's going to allow us to achieve a lot more for us as an evolutionary species than anything those that keep putting labels on them could ever do. They are the cause of the problem, not the solution. And I'm offering people a way to solve the things they can't figure out about themselves, where it means that they can walk away from their addictions, from their anxiety, from their fears, from their medications, from letting other people label them, because I let you figure yourself out by offering you another way to do it. I always know when I've triggered something in people because they have that snap. It happened the other day with my boy. I saw him like, like that, like when it clicked in him. You always know when it clicks because you'll feel it on the right side of your brain, sort of like either from your nose to maybe your ear, or sort of across the side of your head, like at the top. It'll feel like a bolt of electricity that sort of, it's alive sort of thing, because it's fired a synapses. The synapses in your brain have kicked off. It's fixed the glitch, the blip. It's straightened it out. It's gone bzz and like straightened it out. It's like the Big Bang, that eureka moment. And those sort of moments are important for people who function on a higher frequency to everybody else. Now, the thing is, the reason why I'm so opposed to the paranormal, and why I keep trying to explain the difference between the paranormal and the supernatural, because there really is a difference. And unfortunately, because people don't understand the supernatural, the paranormal gets fed all the attention, and it's feeding into the psychoses by psychiatry and psychology not understanding how fragile the human mind is, and recognizing the true extent of what the brain is actually capable of. Physics understands, but psychiatry and psychology don't, because they're not technically a science. And I know people don't like that, but the fact that they don't understand this stuff, the fact that they didn't even know who Carl Jung was when I was trying to explain, he's literally like, he's like, he's the psychiatrist or the psychoanalysis or analyst or whatever he was, who put two and two together between religion and the occult. He's like the grandfather of the supernatural and paranormal sciences. He figured out there was a correlation, he just didn't understand it fully, and that's where I kind of finished off. So, people like him made an impact in the world to become an inspiration to people like me. And then through me learning from him and figuring stuff out that he got wrong, because like I was able to bring in an indigenous element to it, to how we deal with the planet and cycles and dreams and navigation and feelings and grief and death, and that, like, I was able to bring a different perspective into it that kind of merged the two together, that created what I do now, which is the ascension sciences, and teaching people how to figure themselves out from the ground up, from the inside out, from the up and down. And when you're going through the ear to ether stage of your ascension, that's when you start to get to know your ancestors. And they're the good voices in your head. And this is what people need to understand. When it's a good voice, when it makes you feel good, when it calms you down, when it brings you peace, when it's waking you up out of sleep paralysis, um, demons, and nightmares and that sort of thing, they're your ancestors, and they're the ones that watch over you to make sure that you stick to the plan, because you're the ones that are chosen to be the ones to break, like the karmic break. You're the ones chosen to break the cycle. You're the ones that they're hoping are the ones that'll be strong enough to figure it out, so that you can break the cycles and pay off karmic debt and stuff like that, because then it fixes the glitch in the genetic timeline as well. And then you get to progress and move on and share your talents and gifts with the world, that then go on and help people decades down the line to help everybody else. So then when you get to be a legend in history, where your teachings or your practice or your science or your invention or your music or your art gets to change the way somebody sees the world in a way that helps others, like figuring out that Lewis Wayne was ascending, and he was literally drawing his frequency rising, and they said it was schizophrenia, and it was like, oh my god, these people need to be studied. Like, these people have access to wormhole kind of frequencies, and instead of everybody watching in awe and trying to decipher the messages, they've been medicated to the point of death and suicide, and being sectioned, and it's absolutely horrendous, because it's an instinctual response to kill what you don't understand. And these are the ones that are trying to show us the way. These are the ones that are going to get us through the wormholes to see what's on the other side of this universe that we're in. And that which we do not understand, we fear. And it's like, oh my god, people, wake up. Do you not see who they are? So the thing with the paranormal is that everybody uses it to either get inside your head, control the way that you see God, and none of it is ever right, make you afraid to think for yourself, make you fear consequences. I mean, you should fear consequences, but the thing is, we're given the guilt as an emotion for a reason, and your conscience will always let you know when you've done something wrong, because you will feel guilt and shame. And then it's up to you to do something to fix it. But if you know you haven't done anything wrong, then you will feel no guilt about it, not to be confused with the narcissists who lack the empathy gene. Um, like manipulation is something altogether completely different. But, you have good voices and you have bad voices, and the bad voices are never ever your own. The bad voices will always be baggage that you have carried of somebody else's unresolved issues, even if that's because the bad voices are the voices of your parents or grandparents, or the kids at school, or your teacher or your boss or whatever, that was constantly calling you names and putting you down, and feeding you bad thoughts and showing you bad habits, and it's still not your fault. 95% of what an adult carries will come from baggage that the parents and the people around them force them to carry. And children are only supposed to be here to live in their imaginations and have fun and laugh until it's time to go into that cocoon and become the butterfly that they're going to be on the other side. And it's up to people like me, and it's supposed to be, society as a whole, that make sure that when they come out the other side, that when they spread their wings, their butterfly wings are intact and their colours are bright. And when they pollinate and chase the sun, it's to leave a legacy in the world. So it's when when it's a butterfly's time to become part of the sun, they've left their imprint on the planet. That's exactly what it is supposed to be with creative empaths and that, and they're given these labels, and this the glorification of the paranormal is the glorification of mental illness. And I'm sorry to have to say that, but it is. There's varying levels of it that people don't understand that are harmful to the evolution of man's psychological mind. We're supposed to be thinking light years ahead of what we are by now, and people like people like Lewis Wayne and Charles Rene Mackintosh and Leonardo da Vinci and that Mozart, Tchaikovsky, they hit the frequency. They nailed it. They knew how to transmit a frequency in such a way that it was light years ahead of its time. And we've got these minds out there that are making video games and making movies and writing songs and, designing things and building things and creating things and programming things and using maths and architecture and engineering and that in a way that's been completely ignored because they're not being supported by their governments, because they're stuck in flats like the ones upstairs with nobody there to stimulate their genius minds, because they're too busy giving them mental illness labels, simply because they haven't had anyone there to explain the difference between those voices in their head and what's theirs and what isn't, and what needs to be worked on and what doesn't. And there are good voices and there are bad voices. You have your conscious mind and you have your subconscious mind, and that which comes from your conscious mind will always hit you right in your heart. And if it hits your heart, it is genuine and real. But if it hits your head, you need to think about where those voices are coming from, because creative empaths, we all run on varying frequencies, and some people are able to transmit what they think into reality and manifest it in a way that, if it's not manifested in a positive way, it can manifest into something very dark and twisted. People like the CIA and that, those energy weapons that they built off Nikola Tesla's work, they can make people do some really bad things. And then these people are like waking up and thinking, what the hell's just happened? And then they're being accused of the most horrendous things. Some of them end up where it's so strong, they end up just losing their mind. Because we're born with the instinct of needing to figure out our surroundings in the blink of an eye, to know whether we need to get the hell out of there and run, or stand our ground and defend ourselves, or whether we can relax, or whether we're aroused. We need to be able to figure that out in an instant in order to ensure our survival. And when you're around surroundings that don't make any sense, it instinctually starts messing with your head. And when we intuitively start looking for answers, what is available to us isn't always correct. So then that becomes even more confusing to the people who are trying to ascend, And then it kicks off this whole paranormal stuff. And now, because it's such a popular, you know, people like to be scared and people like to figure, it's instinctual for us to want to figure stuff out. And, anything to do with our morbidity and our safety and survival instincts, and that, we're naturally drawn to want to figure out why people died and why that happened, and what, because it's an instinctual thing to want to figure out, what to avoid, so that doesn't happen to me and your descendants and all of that, right? So because we pass on everything we learn down the line, which is why it's really hard for people who are ascending, because they're the ones that have been chosen to break the cycle. I had to break the cycle with me as a mum, with some of the things that my mother did, that I'm helping her pay off karmic debt by ensuring that I broke that cycle with my children, and then doing everything I can to make sure from that point on that I'm a better mother, and I've worked my butt off. Literally, I had about 9 butts and I've worked 8 of them off. So, because losing weight was one of the things that I had to do to prove to my sons that I needed to work on myself to break the cycle, because my mother, at one point was quite big herself. She did lose weight in the end, but I watched her go through hell, and I want to break that cycle, especially because my mother was stuck in the four walls of her home with all these dreams and aspirations of seeing the world when my dad got out of the army, and it never happened. And so I want to break the cycle. I don't want to be stuck in the four walls of my home either. And I want my children to get out and see the world. So when we get out of here and I get to do my bit trying to convince people to let me put my shops in their countries and all that sort of thing, I'm going to take my kids with me and, show them the world. Because that's what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be living by our own rules, based on our choices. And when you don't have a balanced mind, you don't make good choices. And you become your surroundings. You become the company you keep. And if you're around people who are transmitting negative things into your mind that easy, that you're then experiencing paranormal activity, or you've gone into a place where you've been soaked in that stuff and you've absorbed it and you're experiencing it because of something that was put there in the past, you're the one that's been chosen to fix it. But because people don't know how, that's when the paranormal takes off. They put these cameras in, they think it's the dead, and I mean, it's so insulting. It really is. Physics is insulted on so many levels, it's not even funny. I might not be able to understand physics in a way what uses numbers and stuff, but I know how to use physics using language, by explaining what I see using visual imagery and stuff like that. That's the only way I know how to do it, unfortunately, because maths doesn't work in that, for that frequency. Um, there's no imagination in maths. AI, maths is instinctual and it needs to be intuitive. And it's like you can't predict maths infinity, if that makes sense. And when it comes to, understanding time and the way time works in conjunction with the conscious mind to balance out the subconscious development, which you need in order to be able to ascend, everything has to be pitch perfect. And if everyone's running around on varying frequencies and stuff, I mean, it's just pure madness. You've got people running around with cameras on social media, either faking ghost evidence or not trying to fix it if it appears to be genuine, because there are a couple of things in there that I've seen that absolutely seem to be genuine, but instead of doing something about it and, shutting everything down for them so that there can be peace in that, they're not. They just keep going back and investigating and, for the spooks and that. And it's absolutely insulting to the memories of the people who came before us. Like, we're so disrespectful to how we remember and honour the dead. It's embarrassing. If you're experiencing paranormal activity, somebody else put it there or you created it yourself. And you have to be honest with yourself and try and figure it out. But that's why I'm here. When I have my radio shows, when I put my stuff out there, I'll be able to teach you the difference between the paranormal and the supernatural. And then you'll know how to deal with it. And I'll have the products that you can use as well to help you and to help you cross things over and shut things down where it's organic, where there's no chemicals, where there's no BS, where there's no religion if you don't want it to be. It all depends on your belief. And then you can start figuring out the voices on your own. And you won't need anyone else's help. And then you won't have anyone telling you what to do. And then the paranormal activity on this planet will just go away. It'll just evaporate because the veil comes down. Once you understand it all, that look at the veil as cholesterol on the brain. Around, that surrounds the brain. That's the veil. And there's a fine line between the truth and the reality. And the reality, it's called reality TV for a reason, right? It's life is more often than not reality TV. And how much of reality TV is real? How much do you believe what you see when you watch reality TV? Do you know what I mean? So if I can help you live a live stream, so to speak, where what you see is what you get, where it can't be manufactured and edited and stuff like that, when you understand it because you're living in the existence of the moment, you see it from a completely different perspective, and then you get to enjoy the ride. Because you can't plan the future, you have to live in it. And it is easy to do, but you have to pull the veil back. You have to be the one to be prepared to admit that maybe the paranormal isn't what we think it is. And yeah, maybe it is actually the cause of a lot of what's wrong with people today. And yeah, okay, maybe I personally think that there should be laws where if you upload something, you have to, by law, put like a watermark or something or a notice that says this isn't reality, or this isn't true, or this is based on, this is fictional or something like that, so that, or this it has AI, is AI enhanced or something like that, because these people are putting stuff out there that a lot of people are believing is real, and it is manipulating the way society is starting to think and react to things that isn't based in truth, and that is very, very dangerous. When you have the power over people's minds so easily like that because of things that have been put on social media and YouTube and that becomes very, very dangerous when you have that kind of control over the people that easily, that they're so easily led. You can do a lot of damage with people like that, and people need to start waking up, which is why they try to silence voices like mine, because I help people step through the matrix. I help people step through the veil. And because I speak the language of the people that will take the next generation that one step further into evolution and inspiring for generations to come, that's when we have the upper hand and we have the power, because we're the ones that are then, you know how the Bible said the meek shall inherit the earth? Babies, you're the meek. And I'm here to help you learn to inherit the earth, which is why they're trying to stop me. Because once you take over, civilization gets off this planet, and the ones that embrace the AI technology will become extinct. They'll evolve themselves into extinction. Because a computer can't think as much or evolve as fast as the human mind, because the human mind works at the speed of light. And all it takes is for one person to have that eureka moment, that big bang, that aha, like, oh my God, that, you know, like my boy, how he snapped back, and I knew that minute it clicked in him. The sky's the limit. You go off like a rocket. But these minds are around people that every time that rocket goes off, someone's there to push the rocket down. But it's like, move your hand out the way and let's see how far those rockets can go. Let's see what they find. Put a camera on it and study it and see where it goes. They're the ones that are going to be the biggest advancement in human evolution, not the ones that are building digital cities, I'm afraid. That is all containment, and that is the opposite of evolution. Evolution is supposed to be organic and biological and unimpeded by man. And so what I'm building, these kids and my staff who were once these kids, will be able to come along and just be like, spread their wings and just let it out. They'll be their full creative expressive selves, and I'll have the niche for them, for their outlets and all of that. I'll have exactly the right perfect thing for them to be able to just let it all out, whether they're writers, artists, programmers, space geeks, whatever. I'll have the perfect outlet for them. So yeah. And then when I have my school at the haunted house, you know, when I have my classes, when we're not using it for Halloween, I'll be able to teach people how to do it so that they can do the same thing and then help us shut this whole paranormal nonsense down, because it doesn't help us in any way, shape or form to think that the dead roam the earth banging chains and smacking pots together in order to get our attention, because they're trapped and stuck. And for the very, very rare occasion where that is true, they're the ones that need our help. But I can't be everywhere all at once, so I need to train people up. And, you know, I mean, I will absolutely give classes down at the haunted house myself, but I want to have teachers in that there as well to do it, because I have to take into consideration my stomach now. I can't stand or sit for too long. I can't do stairs. I can't. Gravity's not a friend of mine anymore. So I have to be able to work at my own pace and just put my own little thing in, depending on whether I've been able to get pain relief, if you know what I mean. Because if it's somewhere like Russia, I might have to. There's countries around Russia where weed is legal medically, where if I get a medical card for them and I need it, I'll just go and spend a couple of days in that country healing and then come back, because I can usually go about 2 weeks before I start feeling the effects of pain. So I can do it that way, but it means that I'd have to be spending time away from the kids and what I have to do. And I mean, if I have to do it that way, otherwise it might be easier to go to somewhere like America where it's legal in a lot of places and I don't have to worry. And you know, I don't know. I don't know. I've had to think of lots of ways to do it, but what I'm building, because we're going to be dealing with underworld stuff, um, that's the paranormal. And it's time people woke up and started healing themselves and stopped relying on other people to tell them what's wrong with them, when really, in all honesty, it just usually requires you to sit down and be honest about who you are, about why you're feeling the way you are, about where it's all come from. And once you put it all together, well, actually, yeah, I was around them and they are going through that, so maybe that isn't me. Maybe I have carried their baggage, and when you start figuring all that stuff out, well, okay, yeah, that might be happening to me because when I was 17, I did blah, 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 and okay, well, yeah, that's fair enough. You got to be really honest with yourself, but you will find that 95% of it will come from things that you experienced or witnessed as a child. For example, when people use Ouija boards and scrying and, doing all that sort of seances, and, you always hear people say they couldn't have known that. I didn't even know that. They couldn't have known that. How did they know that? Even I asked my mum and she was like, how did you know that? You couldn't have possibly known that. Well, the thing is that people need to understand is that the brain is like a supercomputer and remembers every single thing it hears and sees and experiences and witnesses and tastes and touches. It's us that forgets. The brain doesn't forget, but the mind does. The mind only takes what it needs to survive, basically, or to engage or serve its purpose. So, just because 16 years old, they knew the name of your whatever, and you didn't even know that name, or whatever the instance. Just because you don't remember it at 16, or however old you were when you did the Ouija board or the seance or whatever, doesn't mean you didn't hear it when you were 3 months old. It doesn't mean you didn't flick through a photo album or watch a video or something when you were, learning to crawl on a mat when you were 1. It doesn't mean that you didn't hear a conversation between your mum and your auntie or, whatever when you were 3. Just because you don't remember it doesn't mean your brain forgot it. And so when these things happen and you're like, but how did you know? It's more than likely your brain remembered it, but it just took a while for your mind to catch up. And then for the stuff that comes across, it's all like, I'm Satan and I'm dark and blah, blah, blah. Then you need to be looking at what's going on with the people in your circle that's taking part in the seance or the session, because it's an indication that they're going through something and they need help. They need to be able to get it out. But see, that's where I come in, because I know a lot of these kids, they, especially with your goths and your emos and all of that, their art can be a little bit dark and scary. And I've got the perfect comic book, video game and animation series and horror movies and that are perfect for that kind of mind, for the ones that I'm gonna need to write the songs for them, and the music for them, and the stories, and do the art and build the sets and all of that, with those minds helping me create them, because it's a healthy way to express what's in their mind. And then because then they're in the perfect place to understand why it's all happening, and then they can embrace it and heal that part of themselves, and then see what they can do with it. And then the paranormal activity will go away. It'll stop. Because they'll either figure out who's been putting their baggage on them and they'll let go of that baggage and just be free, or they'll figure out where it's come from within them and either forgive themselves or pay off the karmic debt and know that this is happening because they've been given the chance to fix it. And if they fix it, then they're going to have wonderful things come from it. Because if they get to the point where they're staying with me, they've been blessed. It's a blessing. They've been chosen to be given the opportunity to not only save themselves and pay off karmic debt and heal ancestral karmic debt by breaking all sorts of ancestral cycles and stuff, but it's also giving them the opportunity to do something with it in order to inspire future generations by doing what they love and loving what they do, even if it's just for the few months that they're with us. Then whatever happens in life, they're not going to take any of that darkness with them. Like, we'll always be family to them. We'll always be a family. That we'll always be their family. We'll never turn anyone away. If they come back 30 years later and they want to come and work with us, like our door will always be open to family. They'll be our family. We're going to be one big family where they'll have like mentors and brothers and sisters and aunties and uncles and nanas and granddads and, like our own little tribe. We'll be our own clan. Clan Callahan, the Royal Oak Tree Inn. So, yeah, and then we can get rid of the paranormal and study the supernatural and see where it takes us when it's in the hands of minds like that. Because you don't know what you're missing out on. They've never been given the opportunity to be the shooting stars, and I want to be the universe that allows them to shoot across the sky and just make people look up and go, wow, she did that, he did that, he wrote that, she created that. Oh my God, I didn't know my son could do that. I didn't know my daughter could do that. And then we'll have their little red carpet events and make everyone feel special. And yeah, and then I'm telling you now, the paranormal will vanish. It'll be like a shroud lifted across the world. But it all starts in how you treat your mind. And how you treat your mind is all based on how you see it and what you allow other people to see as well. And if they see you in the wrong light, don't let people put labels on you that you don't deserve to wear. And that's where I come in. Which is why they don't like me. So just let me get situated. Just let me get my bearings and figure out where I've got to go. And then the very first thing I'm going to do while I'm getting everything built, and I reckon I can have everything up and running by next Halloween, to put on, the live performance of Vanta Black, the musical, about the zombie apocalypse. I reckon I can have all of that up and running by next Halloween and use that to kickstart, the month of Halloween. Once I can figure out where I'm going, and obviously I need justice and get all of this sorted, but the very first thing I'm going to do before anything gets opened in there is start my radio broadcast, my radio show, my podcasts and that. But I need to be able to do it where people can contact me, either doing, call-in radio or monitors on the screen where I've got people, picking out questions and that sort of thing. I personally, I would prefer to be able to hear their voices. I don't have to see their faces, but I would prefer to hear their voices. It would help if I heard their voices. I prefer to talk in real time. You can make mistakes typing, and when you hear their voices, you can tell the tone of their voice. It's hard to read someone's emotions behind words on a screen. And if someone's coming to me and I misunderstand the way they're asking something on a screen, it can lead things in the wrong direction. But if you hear their voice, You can tell when they're getting upset. You can tell when they're joking, that sort of thing. You can tell when it's a cry for help. You can tell when it's genuine. You can tell when they're being honest. Well, I mean, I can. I look, because, like, your words are my weapon. I'll always use your words against you if I have to. So, I would prefer to hear the person's voice rather than see their face. So I would prefer talkback radio. But let me get it sorted. I need to figure out where I'm going first, and then I'll need to know, like, how I can go about setting up a radio station, or whether there's a radio station where I can go to that would be willing to, like, let me put some radio, like, come and work for them. Have You can buy slots at radio stations, so there might be, like, so if I went to Moscow or South Dakota or Toronto or whatever, there might be radio stations there that would let me buy airtime, and then I could come and do my shows, and then I don't need my own radio station. I can just do it from there. But I would prefer to have my own radio station, because there's other shows that we want to put on as well, and I want to be able to do my Sunday morning children's radio, and Saturday sagas for men and dads and boys. That's when we'll do, like, our World War II Quantum Menace sagas, and our sci-fi stuff and our whodunits and that on the radio. Saturdays for the men. And then we want to do, like, we want to have one where we talk about, like, vintage video games and all sorts of things. So yeah, I would prefer to have my own radio station, but if I have to start with buying airtime with somebody else, then I'll do it. I'm just having a sip. It's got to start somewhere, and then because then I can explain to people what I'm building, and start drawing people's attention to it, so that when we have open day, we draw a lot of attention, because I want to have open day sort of, opening up for the month of Halloween, and kicking it off with putting on the live radio performance of Vanta Black, the musical, which is going to be like War of the Worlds, and about the zombie apocalypse. And yeah, because it gives, like, the kids and all the musicians and everyone, like, a year to practice and rehearse and put it all together. And then when we kick it off, we'll invite people to come and have, like, a picnic in the park, have some beers, put on buses, that sort of thing. So nobody has to drive if they want, just the ticket will be, like, all inclusive. They can bring their food, bring their beer, we'll sell beer there, sell food there, sort of thing. Put on the concert, let everybody have a walk around, like an open day, like a Halloween open day, and then kick off Halloween, like, open the doors the next week, kick off Halloween. You got the haunted house there. You're going to have all the shops, and let people walk around, because it'll be autumn and be absolutely beautiful in there. Yeah, so kick it off with Halloween, and oh my God, have the haunted house and have it all up ready to go. Like, I can't wait. But it's educating people without them. It's educating them by entertaining them without realizing they're learning. Because a lot of people don't like to just be told, well, actually, this is what it is and this is what it is and blah blah blah. But if they're kind of eased into it gently, it's less aggressive than just, like, throwing a Bible or physics book at them, or the Quran, or a poetry book, or Marcus Aurelius's meditation, or it eases them into educating themselves by teaching them in a way that is entertaining, and not, like, aggressively. It's not indoctrination, it's entertainment. And you don't have to participate in any of it. You can just, if you just want to come and stop and have a coffee and eat one of our incredible pies and just go about your business, then, or if you just want to come and, take walks around our parks and then get in the car and go, then you're more than welcome to do that as well. But for the people that want to understand like the dark side of the human evolution, which includes, you know, the human mind and all of that, we're going to have all that stuff there. For the people that want to learn how to figure themselves out and just chill and ground themselves and that, will have all the stuff there. But I can guarantee you that by the time word starts spreading, you're going to see paranormal activity just like stopping overnight. Because they'll dump the baggage once they realise where it's come from. So, yeah, so just let me get myself situated and then we'll get the show started. Okay? And yeah, we need to sort this paranormal stuff out because it's not helping the human mind, it's harming the human mind. It's dealing with the Schumann resonance in a way that is not allowing people to escape from the fear of death and mortality and nothingness and, you know, darkness and unhealthy ancestral patterns, things that we haven't let go of in this life and last ones that need to be looked at because we're at the precipice of breaking away from the old world to embrace the new, and it's only people that evolve embracing tradition and holding on to tradition are the ones that are going to continue to move forward, while everybody else is going to start going backwards. So the ones that jump into the light are the ones that will understand exactly what it is that I'm saying and will do something about it, because it has to start with you first and then you spread it, and then, you know, because energy is transferred like an STD. So I'm trying to be like the penicillin and it spreads, you know, pass it on, pass the penicillin on, cure the disease, actually cure it. You know, the diseased mind creates the paranormal world, and I'm the penicillin. Well, my science is, my physics is. So anyway, I will speak to you later. I can't wait to get this show. I can't wait to do it. I hope I get a radio station, and not hope I get to have my radio station rather than have to buy airtime, because then they might try and own the rights to my show when I try and leave. Anyway, I shall speak to you later. Ka kite anō. Mwah.